Good afternoon. Thank you and welcome to Voice of Impact. My name is Nesreen Mohammed. I'm the founder and managing partner of ACE Advisors. I have here with me my partner and colleague, Abiola Jimoh, founder of XboX.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So today we have been part of the panel discussing AI and fintech. We looked at what does it mean to have data access as levers for economic empowerment in Africa when it comes to unlocking access to finance. Now, we have had a very interesting channel, and the discussion today has gone beyond technology into strategic application to dismantle barriers in finance, business, and innovation. Can you tell me what stood out to you during our conversations?
I think one of the things that's very key that we mentioned is how artificial intelligence, called AI, is going to disrupt the future of finance and fintech innovation for us in Africa. We also mentioned something very candid and a way forward is a united Africa, coming together as a continent to champion our innovation around AI, especially as it regards to impact in fintech, to change the dynamics for us as a continent. Africa is home to a lot of unbanked people, and a key way to diversify or disrupt the sector is to look at financing, for example, credit financing. We cannot do credit financing on traditional banking models. We need to consider things that data can help us harness, things like financing or providing financing based on inventory sales. What do you sell as a shop owner as a way for you to access market finance? Financing based on even use of utility bills. How often do you pay? Consistency of paying your utility bills can be used as a credit check. And all this can be unlocked through data, and that data can in turn go into artificial intelligence to drive impact in Africa.
I think you yourself kind of cleared, as you just mentioned, that the dominance of informality versus intelligence, right?
That's correct.
While 80% you mentioned of MSMEs remain informal, lacking credit history or collateral, AI has enabled fintech in flipping this, right?
That's correct.
By using, as you mentioned, behavioral data, they would be able to see transaction patterns. They would have a credit scoring, so they'll be able to access finance.
Absolutely.
So maybe let me ask one more further questions in this case. So you said fintech has widened access, but what about agency? The panel, you yourself had mentioned that AI must go beyond automation. You have said that it must be intentional in closing gender gaps. Can you perhaps highlight more on that?
Okay, so AI is not going to do anything for us that we're not ready to do for ourselves. AI is just a tool. It's really just a tool. So first of all, what data are we ready to provide? Not just as Nigeria, as Ghana, as Kenya, as Ethiopia. As a continent, how do we agree together to work together to drive AI innovation in our course of doing better ways in business financing? We must be very intentional, like we all agree, that we need AI. A lot of businesses have been transformed. The ways of doing things have been transformed. Less bureaucracy, less processes has been created with the use of artificial intelligence because we feed the right data to get the right results, right? So as a continent, what are we doing to unite our data front on what matters to us? Trade matters to us. We trade together as Africans. We need to remove trade barriers around trading in Africa. And to do that, we need to work together on our data entry and data points to give AI the right data sets to give us better informed decision-making process.
You have had experience working with the public, with government, and also now you're a founder and a private sector player. So bridging those two, what do you think policies should look like when it comes to supporting private sector in AI?
Okay, policy must be geared towards driving investments, making ease of access, barrier entry as reduced as possible. We somewhat stagnate growth of businesses because we create very cumbersome processes around businesses. We need to enable more of sandbox system. Sandbox system means that as a startup, I don't necessarily have to obtain license. I'm given a demo environment to experiment my idea, see whether it's good enough to even determine the kind of licensing I need. All right, we need to create more of such that kind of environment in our policy direction, in not just in Nigeria, like I said, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Africa, and we need to agree on these things. We can even create such a way of policy sandbox system that says that if you can experiment your idea in a convergence in Nigeria, Ghana, this, you can probably be permitted to operate in about 10 African countries for a start. It can be West Africa wide, Central Africa wide, East Africa wide, North Africa wide. That way it accelerates the growth of these startups. Because if they don't pick in Ghana market, they may pick another market faster. Because the environment is different.
Sure.
But if we don't create this ease of entry barrier, we're just going to be stagnating innovation and progress in Africa.
So I think before I wrap up, let me give you the chance. What would your call to action be? You have been in this session, in this event for the past 2 days, listening to policymakers, ecosystem players, private sector, foundations, DFIs, giving their opinions on impact investment. What would be the 3 things that you would call us to action to?
Okay, my call to action in specific terms is that as Africa, let's make life easier for each other, one another. Let's create an environment where I don't need visas to travel to all the African countries. If I'm a Nigerian, or even the world coming to Africa, a single visa entry window, just like you have in Europe, makes it easier to spend. Imagine you have one visa and you can go to all African countries and buy as much as possible, experience the whole of Africa at once like that. The same thing with currency. We need to make our life easier with currency entry, which means if we have a united currency model, it's easier for you to spend one single currency. Unlike you have Naira, Ghana, different currency everywhere, that makes things very hard for us. Largely, and third-wise, is we need to share intelligence and share information around trading and finance so that what works in Nigeria, what works in Ghana can be shared as experience to make things easier, to jumpstart our trade in a faster model. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think kind of wrapping up what I have heard on this panel and what has stood out for me over the past 2 days is that what gets measured gets funded, and what gets funded shapes the future.
Absolutely.
So my takeaway, if you ask me from the past 2 days, is that African regulators, investors, ecosystem builders, we must all align around data sovereignty. From what you have said so far, how can we not be just the data providers, but also the ones that are able to take that data and sell it proactively in a way that makes sense to us and to fit our context?
Absolutely.
And then how can we have an inclusive AI policy that, as you said, breaks down those barriers to make it investable for the investors, right? And then last but not least, at least from my perspective, how can we make these infrastructures gender conscious, marginalized group concerts, looks into the rural areas of Africa. So I think these 3 things have kind of stood up for me. So I said, what gets measured gets funded, and what gets funded has a future.
Absolutely. Thank you
so much, Abiola, for joining us.
It's been a great time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us, and we wish you a good day.